Hey, it's Kilobyte. And I hear you're looking to buy your first handgun. Well, I've got a few tips for you. First, let me start by saying, though, that this is not a video on gun safety, but think safety first when dealing with guns. Read up on safety, watch videos, take a safety class. They are dangerous. You need to be careful with them. Also, check your local laws. Some states and countries have strict laws, others don't. Check on yours. As with all my videos, this video is for informational purposes only. Use this info only at your own risk. Alright, so let's start with some general things that are for any handgun. Caliber. Okay, what size gun? What bullet do I need my gun to shoot? Well, some basics on bullets, and as you see, we got a few here. We've got a, this is a little 22 long rifle. This is a 22 mag. You'll notice the circumference is the same, but the powder, there's a lot more powder in the Magnum. Sorry about the phone. This is a 25 caliber. You got a couple 380s. 38 special, you notice the 380 and the 38 special, they're actually both the same circumference, but a lot more powder in the 38 special. Then you got the 9mm, very popular, and the 40 caliber Smith Wesson, this 9mm Luger. There's also like 45 that you can get, and you can actually get them bigger, but those are the ones that I have on hand. The larger calibers, they are heavier. They're going to recoil more than the lighter calibers. So bear that in mind when you're looking at what size, as far as the caliber of bullet that you're wanting to shoot. Also, the lighter the gun, given a caliber, the greater the kick or recoil. So a light little gun, this is a 380, it actually kicks a fair bit. There's a it's a pretty decent kick. I'm not saying it's a heavy kick, but it does kick. This here is a 40 Smith & Wesson, and on this little tiny gun, and it definitely kicks. I mean, this one definitely kicks. So there's a 22. This thing, I mean, there's hardly any kick. 38. Now this is a steel 38. This thing is heavy. If it's a steel 38, the recoil isn't that bad. It is, whereas if it was like an Airlight type, the aluminum frame, you'd get a lot more kick. So bear in mind that the lighter the gun and the bigger the bullet, the more kick or recoil you're going to have. One thing that I highly recommend is to pick a handle that feels good in your hand. You want it to fit your hand. There are different, and all these guns are unloaded. They have been safety checked. They have different, each manufacturer does its own handle. They all feel different. They're all shaped different. Some guns have different back straps that you can put on the handle. You can also put like grip tape on them, that type of thing, to get it more comfortable for you. But check them, handle the gun before you buy it. Make sure that it's going to have a good feel in your hand. You'll be happier that way. Trigger pull. There are some things to look at for trigger pull. The weight, how much pressure, and again, this is unloaded. Um, the amount of pressure it takes for me to pull back on this handle, that's the trigger pull, the weight of it. Also, there's the range. This is a long trigger pull. Where it actually engages, as far, there'll be a little slack, and then it'll pick up, and then right where it clicks, how far back you got to go, all those affect the trigger pull, the smoothness. So kind of check those. There are single action, double action, and double action / single action firearms. The easiest way that I can think of to demonstrate that is with a revolver, and this is unloaded. So a revolver, this as it's set in here, is a double action. What I mean by that is when I pull this trigger back, the hammer is going back. So that's cocking it, and then when it hits to the certain point in the pull, it's then fires. That's a double action. If I pull this back, I've already manually done, cocked it. Single action is at this point where if your gun is already cocked and all you got to do is touch it. Single action, that's what that is. And you can get your semi-automatic pistols. There'll be double actions. There'll be single action or double action, single action, where you got to pull it a hard pull back the first time. After those, it'll be a single action. So be aware that when you're looking at pistols, that's the kind of thing you'll want to look at. And then you got some of them are what's called safe action, and that's, check the trigger, how the firing mechanism works with the trigger. Revolver versus pistol, which also gets us into the simple versus complicated. A revolver, this is about as simple as it gets. You will put your bullets in here, shut it, and you're ready to go. There is no safety. It's got a pretty significant trigger pull. In fact, this one has a very hard trigger pull. And you shoot it when when all your bullets have been shot. You can still sit there and squeeze it, and it'll keep turning. But of course, it won't fire. You've got to dump them and then physically reload it, manually reload them. But they're simple. It's not going to jam on you or anything like that. Then you've got your semi-automatic pistol. It's a little more complicated. It will have a magazine. You will load your magazine. You can have multiple magazines, and what you do, again, there's nothing in it. Put your magazine in. You will then cock it, and again, it's not loaded. Now you're ready to go. In this case, that's it. You will pull that trigger. It's going to when it fires, the recoil is going to shoot this thing back. It's going to, one bullet's going to eject, the other one's going to load, and you've got 6 shots in the magazine with this particular one. When it's out, when you're out of bullets, you will dump the magazine. If you got a second one, put it in, rack it, and you're good to go again. So the semi-automatic is a little more complicated, perhaps, than the revolver, but you can have multiple magazines, and you can get, when you start talking like 1911s and stuff, it gets a little more complicated than that, because then you can get into your thumb safeties. Some of them will have a grip safety back here. Most will have what's called the little trigger safety, so that if I pull back up here, it doesn't actually go past a certain point. You got to pull the trigger itself at the bottom. So check for the complication. If it's your first handgun, you probably don't want something that's too complicated. So that's the basics that cover all your handguns. Now let's look at, okay, why do you want the handgun? What are you looking at doing with it? If you're looking at plinking or just target practice, I recommend something that is kind of a larger frame or a full size. This way, you're going to have all your fingers will be on the handle. It's got a good distance from the front sight to the back sight, which allows you to get a more precise aim. As far as ammo, if you're just plinking or target practicing, just shooting to shoot because it's fun, the 22 long rifle has low recoil, and it's pretty much one of the cheapest ammos you can buy, assuming, of course, that you can find some, which supply is starting to come back, so hopefully you'll be able to find some. If the other most common caliber for just target shooting is probably the 9mm, the 9mm Luger. So I'd recommend one of those for your first handgun. You can reload if you get like the 9mm or any of what's called a center fire. That being not a 22 as a general rule. Can't reload 22s, but most of the others you can. If you got a friend or relative that reloads and they're willing to reload for you, you might be able to save a little money on ammo that way, but that's obviously an advanced topic. Competition. If you're wanting to use the handgun in competition, read up on the rules, get on the forums. If you're wanting to do IDPA or something, most of them will have a minimum caliber. That'll generally be 9mm. Some will have a performance index. In other words, based upon the caliber, the smaller the caliber, the more powder you have to use. It's got to meet some sort of factor, power factor, that'll be calculated. So read up on the rules for that. Check for the gun type, what category you'd be shooting in. Do they have a revolver class? That type of thing, and any modifications that you can do on the gun. Home defense. This is obviously one of the major reasons people get their first handgun is home defense. A larger caliber, while it's going to kick more, you're going to have more felt recoil with it, it's also going to create a bigger hole, which means it's got more stopping power. The one-stop shot percentages are available on the internet. You can research all that. So consider the caliber. Get a larger caliber that you can still shoot. If you don't hit, it doesn't matter how big it is, how big the bullet is. It's not going to, it's not going to do any damage. Number of bullets, the capacity of the magazine. All right, this little magazine is 12. This is for the 22. This will hold 12. This little one here, the 380, this only holds 6, not counting the one in the chamber here. But you can get additional magazines, and I do recommend you have additional magazines if you're doing home defense. Honestly, if you're just doing home defense, the 45 is a good, that's obviously a big caliber, and you can get some good sized magazines, because if it's just home defense, the size of the gun itself won't be a problem and could in fact help you handle it better. Also consider rails. This here has a rail on the bottom, so you can hook up a light or a laser. So that's something to consider. Reliability, when you're talking life and death, reliability is huge. So I recommend looking at reviews of the gun you're wanting, you're liking, before you buy it, and make sure it's reliable. The other thing is, if it's for home defense, honestly, consider a shotgun. If you're looking at concealed carry, Now, 3 of these are really good concealed carry guns. The number 1 rule for a concealed carry, in my opinion, all right, size does matter when it comes to concealed carry. If you won't carry it, it's of no value. So if your gun is too big where you're not comfortable carrying it, or you're worried that someone's going to see it, so okay, I'm not going to bring it this time because it's just uncomfortable or it's inconvenient, then that gun is not a good concealed carry. You've got to make sure you're going to carry it. So you can get the biggest caliber, you can get a 45 for your concealed carry. If it's too big and you don't carry it, it's of less value than this little 22 long rifle. 22 Magnum. It's actually a little tiny bullet, but it fits in little tiny guns, and it's got a decent amount of powder. So, think about it. The 380, it's a very popular caliber for concealed carry because it's such a small gun can handle it. 40, this is a pretty small. It's kind of thick, but it's pretty small. The 38 Special, this one here is steel, so it's kind of heavy. But if it was aluminum, it's a good gun to carry. Let's see. So we got the largest caliber you'll actually carry. The other thing is number of bullets. There's a lot of disagreement on how many bullets your carry gun should have. Well, I recommend it at least has some. Some are better than none. People will complain about the 5, this little stub-nose 38 only having 5 bullets. Yeah, that's 5 bullets though that you wouldn't have had otherwise. If you're in if you're in a real situation where you have to fire, hopefully, God forbid you're ever in that situation. But if you are, yes, having more bullets will be helpful. Most of the time, though, you don't even have to fire based upon statistics. You pull the gun and they will take off. But, pray that you never have to be in the situation where you do have to fire. And obviously reliability, just like your home defense, reliability is very important. Check the reviews, make sure your gun is reliable. The other thing I could think of is maybe you're wanting to start collecting guns. And I don't really know a whole lot about collecting guns. I do know that, like with cars, you want to get numbers matching, as in check the serial numbers on the gun, make sure that it's legit for the year and all that the gun is supposedly from. So if you're looking at a World War II rifle, check the serial number on it and make sure that that's one that was actually manufactured during World War II. Also research that area or era that you're interested in, and one good place to look, or is it estate sales? That's a good place to find collector pieces, especially the old military World War II type guns. So one last thing, I highly recommend that you go to the shooting range and actually shoot some of the different types of handguns. If you've got a friend, relative that's got some, ask them to go to the shooting range with you. Take their guns, shoot them, see what you like. If you don't, a lot of the ranges rent guns. Consider renting some guns. Again, to fire them, actually get a feel for it and what you like. You may love revolvers, or you may think you would love a revolver until you shoot it. Everybody's got their opinions. That's why there's so many different kind of guns. If there was one perfect gun, that would just be the one gun. So consider going out and shooting it yourself. It's the best way to see what you like and don't like. So that's my the basics on buying your first handgun. I hope you found it helpful. If so, please like, subscribe, comment. It's greatly appreciated. Thanks for watching, and shoot safe.